LISP packet. In this video, I'm going to talk about the LISP packet, and I'm going to show you the detail of a LISP packet, and I'm going to give you some more explanation, some more detail about the LISP. As you remember, I configured this scenario in the previous video, and we saw that how for example, communication between C1 and C2, or C1 and C3, or C2 and C3 is occurring. And now we will talk about the more detail about the, for example, LISP process. The first thing that I'm going to show you is that the communication now is available. Let me to show you here from PC1. I can send the ICMP echo request to C2. Let me to show you. This is the previous scenario. In VPC1, I'm using the ping command and then the destination IP ping 192.168.210. For example, we have connectivity, and for example, I'm sending the ICMP packet to the 192.168.310, the IP address of the C3. After 2 timeout, we will have the connectivity. Okay, very good. And you know the configuration of R1, R2, and R3 and R4. R1 is our mapping server and also mapping resolver again. R2 is a XTR. XTR means ITR and also for example, ETR. We are using the XTR term instead of ITR and ETR. When a router has the role of ITR and also ETR, we call it XTR. Okay, you know it. And also, as I showed you in the previous video, you know that, for example, C1 as an endpoint can send the traffic to the C2 192.168.110 to the 192.168.210, for example. Now, the first things that is occurring is that R2 as a default gateway should search in its routing table about the destination, about the 192.168.210. This is the first things that R2 should check. And also here we have another process. In this video, this is the first time I'm talking about this process. You know that in the previous video, I mentioned that the process is that first R2 should search its routing table about the 192.168.210, and after R2 understand that this destination EID is not available in the routing table of R2, R2 should check its, for example, a caching table or map cache. After R2 doesn't find the destination EID in the map cache, it should ask with the map request from the mapping resolver the routing locator of this destination EID. Let me to write this process. The first step is that first it should check the routing table. This is the first step, routing table, according to the previous video. And after that, it should check when it isn't available in the routing table of R2. R2 should check the mapping cache or map cache. Okay, and after R2 doesn't find the, for example, destination EID in the map cache, it should ask from the map resolver with the map request. Okay, this is the process I mentioned in the previous video. Now I'm going to add one more step to this process. Look at here. We have another clause in the R2 before checking the map cache and also map request. At the first step, R2 should check the routing table, and also we have another step. 1 plus, for example, because in some vendors, first R2 should check its routing table and after that this process. And in some vendors, first R2 should check this process and then routing table. It's not important the order between the routing table check and this step. Okay, let me to call it the step 2, and map cache is a step 3 now, and map request is a step 4. In the step 2, R2 should check the source EID. Okay, check or verify the source EID. Source EID is 192.168.110 to destination of the and the destination EID is 192.168.210. Let me to review some topics for better understanding this function. You know that, for example, when R2 receiving a packet, this is the packet with the source EID. I will show you in the notepad file here. From C1, we are sending a packet with the source EID. This is the source EID of 192.168.110 to the destination EID, destination DEID, and the DID is, for example, 192.168.210. You know that in the checking the routing table, check routing table, the first step, or verify for example, routing table or search routing table, you know that destination EID should be searched in the routing table. Destination EID, look at here, destination EID should be check or, for example, match with the routing table. This is the function of destination EID, such as, and destination EID, you know, is the destination IP, for example. And after that, in the second step, as I mentioned before, the router 2 also should verify the source EID. What does this mean? What does this mean? The verify source EID, with which table the source EID should be verified and should be checked. Look at here. You know that we configured R2 with one database mapping command. For example, in R2, I configured database mapping 192 the EID, 192.168.10, okay, /24 with some other parameters. Let me to show you in R2. This is the R2's configuration. This is the R2's configuration. Look at here, R2, show run. In R2, we have database mapping for 192.168.10/24 with the, for example, quad 2 as the routing locator. When a packet received in the R2, yes, should check the destination EID in the routing table. After R2 doesn't find the destination EID in the routing table, before checking the map cache and before sending the map request, if the entry doesn't exist in the map cache, first it should check the source EID with the database mapping command. You know that, for example, R2 now is receiving this source EID 192.168.110. It should check the source EID, okay, 192.168.110, and if the source EID is one IP address, is one of the IP addresses that R2 advertised to R1 with database mapping command, now the R2, okay, should search the map cache or sending the map request. It should verify source ID with the entry in the database mapping command, for example. Okay, why? Because if R2 sends this traffic outside with the tunnel, for example, to R3, for example, R3 need to give answer to R2. And if the source IP doesn't available in the mapping resolver or mapping server, R3 can't send the response to the R2. Because of that, it's necessary that R2, before sending the map request or checking the map cache, okay, check the source ID to checking the source EID with the database mapping. If the source EID is available in the database mapping command, then the next step is that it can first check the mapping cache in the local router, and if it doesn't find, it can ask with the map request from the map resolver. This is a process